Not a feeling where you sit down to actually do something that matters, open your laptop, know exactly what you need to do, and instead you start refreshing your email, check your phone, open a new tab, decide you just need to research this one thing. Next thing you know, that one thing becomes 10 things. You rearrange your desk, you make a to-do list about the things that you need to do, color coordinate it, instead of actually doing the thing that you were meant to do. And then by the time you look up, you're mentally tired, 5 hours has gone past, nothing important is finished, and then you start feeling guilty without even knowing where the hell the time went. Yeah, your brain is just feeling a little bit too foggy. Welcome to Toxic Physiology. Hi guys, I'm Dr. Mazrui. In the last episode, we talked about dopamine, and we talked about how there's 4 pathways that dopamine takes that do different things. And the one that we focused on last time was the mesolimbic pathway, which was mainly about craving, compulsion, the whole I keep going back even when I don't enjoy it feeling, and this is this episode. Go watch it, it was great. This episode, we're going to be talking about a different problem. We're going to be mainly talking about why is it that I can't stay with what actually matters? Why is my brain so foggy? Why can I not focus? Now, when you talk about focus, people will usually tell you that this is a discipline problem. They'll say you're lazy, you just need to try harder. But the reality is you can't brute force a brain whose focus system is miscalibrated. You can't. There is actually a dopamine pathway whose entire job is to help your thinking brain decide what to care about, what to stick with, what to ignore. And when that system gets thrown off, you don't just lose productivity, you lose your ability to live your day with purpose. And that in itself becomes toxic physiology. So in this episode, we are going to be talking about that pathway, and that pathway is known as the mesocortical dopamine pathway. Now, the mesocortical dopamine pathway runs from deep in your midbrain into your prefrontal cortex, which is your planning and thinking brain. We're going to be looking at how it decides what feels doable, how it can quietly make your brain prefer easy over meaningful, and why modern life is basically a focused minefield. Most importantly, we'll talk about how to start stabilizing the system so you can actually sit down, cut through the brain fog, and finish the things that you actually care about. Now, your brain can sometimes refuse to do things. I know I get this. We all do. You're sitting down to work. You feel a little bit motivated. You know the task, you know the deadline. You open the document or the project or whatever, lecture, and your brain just slides off it. You read the first sentence 3 times, you feel this weird mental resistance in your forehead that you're trying to push through concrete, and your thoughts feel thick, slow, disconnected. So you tell yourself, I'll just quickly check my phone first. And you open one notification, then another, and then you switch back to your laptop. You think, let me just clear my email so I can focus after. Or you clean your room so you can focus after. Next thing you know, 40 minutes in, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, your tabs have multiplied. You're mentally scattered. And the actual task that you were meant to do is still untouched. Now, you're not stupid. You're not lazy. Your brain literally cannot look in. Your brain has said, no, not today. That slippery, restless, I can't hold this in place feeling, that's what it looks like when your focus pathway is out of balance. That is what we call brain fog. So, inside your brain, like I mentioned before, there's a dopamine pathway that connects a region called the VTA to your prefrontal cortex, which is the part of your brain that handles planning, attention, decision-making, and holding things in mind. This is known as the mesocortical pathway. So, if the mesolimbic pathway decides what you chase, the mesocortical pathway decides what you stick with. Dopamine in this circuit helps your prefrontal cortex hold a goal in mind, filter out distractions, weigh effort versus reward, and stay with one thing long enough for it to pay off. When dopamine here is in a healthy range, you get that feeling of, I know what I'm doing, I know why it matters, and I can actually stay with it. When it's off or dysregulated, you get the exact opposite. Brain fog, mental noise, and a constant pull towards anything that is easier. You know those clothes that you have been refusing to fold? All of a sudden, you will be folding those clothes instead of doing what you're meant to be doing. So let's have a look at what happens here. What happens when there's too little dopamine? Okay, let's start with too little. So when dopamine signaling in this pathway is too low, your thinking brain struggles to stabilize. It feels like brain fog, drifting off mid-sentence, rereading the same line over and over again. You know that feeling where you're just like, you know, you're looking at the paper, you're just like, why is this not processing in my head right now? You read something, you forget what you're doing. You start a task and you immediately forget what you were doing halfway. It's not that you don't care. No, you care about the task. It's that your brain can't hold the task in the spotlight. Low dopamine in this situation makes low stimulation tasks feel almost impossible. When it comes to answering simple messages, yeah, I can do that. Scrolling, absolutely. But writing that report, revising for that exam, planning that project, paying that fine, your brain looks at it and says, no, that's way too heavy. Not today. We don't have fuel for that. So what does it do? Slides towards anything that gives a quick, easy hit. Switching, checking, multitasking, tiny micro rewards. You experience it as, I just can't seem to get started, or my brain won't come online. That is the low dopamine side of brain fog. So, what happens when we have too much dopamine? On the other side, when you have too much dopamine, you don't get calm focus, you get mental noise. It feels like racing thoughts, overthinking everything, jumping between ideas. Before finishing one idea, you're on to the next. You're feeling a little bit wired, you're a bit scattered. You open one task and your brain immediately generates 10 other related tasks. So you're just like, I should fix that first. And then you're like, oh, no, I need to fix that. And then you're like, oh, no, I need to do this. And you're, oh, I need to read this article, but then I need to read this. And you just can't settle. You have the energy, you do, but it's fragmented. Instead of having like a spotlight that focuses on one thing, you've got a strobe light. And this is part of why both boredom and stress wrecks your focus, okay? Now, at this point you might be wondering, okay, so is brain fog caused by too little dopamine or is it caused by too much? And here's the uncomfortable answer. It's not that simple. Brain fog isn't one disease with one chemical. It's a description of how it feels inside your head when your thinking system can't hold things steady. So too little dopamine, you can't get going. Too much, especially with stress, your thinking circuits get flooded and performance drops. There's a sweet spot in the middle. You can't have too much, can't have too little, has to stay regulated to be able to support focus. And both sides of that feel like your brain is not cooperating. Both sides of that feel like brain fog. Dopamine is one of the big players, especially in this mesocortical pathway. When dopamine here is too low, your thoughts can't lock in. Everything feels heavy, hard to start, hard to hold. That's the I'm staring at my screen, my brain won't come online version of brain fog. When dopamine here is too high or too spiky at the wrong time, you don't have clarity, okay? You get racing thoughts, mental noise, busy mind that just can't seem to land. That's the I'm wired, I'm thinking a lot, but none of it is useful version of brain fog. Different ends of the scale, but the same experience. Either way, your mind isn't working the way it needs to. And on top of that, dopamine isn't acting alone. Other things like sleep, stress hormones, inflammation, blood sugars, overall health, all of these can blur thinking too. So when we say brain fog, we're not saying your dopamine is low full stop. We're saying the dopamine system that's supposed to stabilize your focus is out of its sweet spot, and the rest of your physiology is often not helping either. The result is a brain where thoughts can't land and stay put. Your mesocortical system doesn't just control attention. It also estimates whether a task feels worth it. It's constantly running silent calculations like, how much effort will this cost? How much reward will I get? Do we have the energy for this right now? When your dopamine signaling is off, that internal calculator gets skewed. High effort, high reward tasks, studying, deep work, building something, long-term creative projects start to feel too much. low effort, low rewards tasks like checking, switching, scrolling, tiny admin start to feel like the only thing that's realistically doable. So your brain quietly starts to prioritize easy over meaningful, fast over deep, immediate over important, because your physiology has tagged those options as manageable. That's how brain fog slowly reshapes your life. Now, when your brain starts to see deep single task focus as too heavy, it actually goes looking for easier wins. And multitasking is the perfect supplier of easy wins. Let's use a real life example. Okay, so you're sitting down, you need to write a report, okay? And that is the real task. You type a sentence and feel a little resistance, and you look at your to-do list and say, you know what, I'm just gonna do some of these tasks, maybe it will get me in the mood. So one of the things you need to do is check your email. So you check your email so that it's not hanging over you. You open your inbox, you answer a couple of easy emails. It feels good. Quick wins, tick, tick, tick. Then you go back to your report. And still some resistance. So you see a notification from a group chat, you click it, you reply, another tiny I did something, check. Then you remember you wanted to update your to-do list. So you open your productivity app, shuffle a few tasks around. By the time you finally come back to that report, 30, 45 minutes to an hour have passed. You've answered messages, you've cleared a few emails, you've tweaked your systems, you've ticked off your to-do list. Every time you switch tasks, it feels like you did something. But the report has barely moved and your head feels foggy and more scattered than it was before you started. From your dopamine system's point of view, this session was a success. Lots of tiny switches, lots of tiny rewards. But from your life's point of view, nothing important has been advanced. Now, let's discuss multitasking. I'm going to say something controversial. Multitasking is a scam. Yes, I think it's a scam. If you look at our modern environment, right, every time you switch tasks, you check a message, open a new tab, skim a notification, you get a tiny hit of novelty and we did something, you know? Your brain goes, new thing, we completed something. That tiny micro reward trains your mesocortical system to associate switching with success. So you switch, you get a small dopamine bump. Feel briefly rewarded, crave more switching. Over time, your brain learns depth is uncomfortable, switching feels good. Multitasking stops being a choice. It becomes your default state. And a focus problem quietly turns into a dopamine problem, which shows up in your life as constant brain fog. What does that mean? Keep doing loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of little tasks. It becomes harder to focus on a task that requires your full attention because you're rewarding your brain for switching and almost never rewarding it for staying put. So your mesocortical pathway learns a new rule that jumping around feels good. Holding one thing feels bad. And once that pattern is trained in, brain fog stops being an occasional bad day. It starts becoming your default state. Now, let's discuss productivity tools. Serious tools, task managers, calendars, note apps, project system, with the purpose of getting you super organized. It's what I call toxic productivity. There's so many productivity tools out there that just learning how to use that tool in itself is more work. I know people who are so good at being organized and yet they still cannot get things done. Okay? They can make things look pretty on the outside, but on the inside, nothing is done. From the outside, you look extremely organized, but from the inside, your brain has just as much brain fog as that nutcase over there who everything is everywhere. I find a lot of these project management tools to be a complete waste of time. And they actually make you feel worse than when you don't use them. I think everyone should just use a pen and paper and write their to-do list by hand in front of their faces. That's it. You do not need all these crazy, advanced project management tools. I remember whenever I've had exams, I've always tried to use one of these task management tools, hoping that it motivates me somehow to take my revision much more seriously. And it has never, ever, ever, ever worked. Color coordinating, this and this and that. It doesn't work. It doesn't. There's very few people it actually works for. It's just to make you feel better. And from the outside, you might look extremely organized, but from the inside, your brain is doing the exact same thing it does when it multitasks. It's chasing tiny, easy wins instead of staying with that one difficult but meaningful thing. And this new form of productivity comes in where the tools quietly become the work, okay? Now, these productivity apps cause a loop where you sit down to make progress on something real, writing, studying, building, creating, but instead you spend an hour tweaking your to-do app, color coding labels, moving tasks between projects, rewriting your system again. And then you try a new calendar tool, you migrate your notes, you reorganize your folders, you build the perfect second brain for a life you're too exhausted to actually live. Every tiny action gives you a little hit of I'm getting organized. Tick a box, drag a task, clean an inbox, archive a notification. It feels responsible, it looks mature. But if you zoom out, you just spent your best brain doing admin for the sake of admin. Your mesocortical pathway is getting its reward. It's getting its fix for not doing any work. It's not doing the work and it's still getting its fix. So it quietly learns a new rule. Setting up systems equals success. Being in the system equals enough. Deep work becomes optional. Endless tweaking becomes normal. That's a new form of zoochosis. Your brain is captive, pacing around inside productivity apps, instead of roaming freely in real problems, real skills, real creations. Now, it's not the tools that are evil. No, they're not evil. I think some people might really find them helpful. But I feel like they're training your dopamine system to chase the feeling of being organized instead of the reality of meaningful output. Modern productivity can become the most socially acceptable form of brain fog. It can. Honestly, it really, really can. And we need to remember that a lot of these recommendations that are being given by these toxic productivity gurus, there's a financial incentive there. Okay? There's a financial incentive there. Just because you use a productivity app, it does not mean that you're going to be more productive. Now, something that we need to realize is that you're not just fighting your phone. You're fighting an entire culture built on interruption. If you think about certain workplaces, you sit in an open plan office, you have no doors, no real walls, constant background noise, people can tap you on your shoulder at any moment, your name can appear in a group chat at any moment, someone can schedule a quick call, quick Zoom at any moment. Your mesocortical pathway is trying to hold one thought, one plan, one problem in an environment that trains it to stay half available for the next interruption. That's how you end up with a clear calendar and still no deep work. No real thinking, just a day full of fragments. And then people call you lazy for not being able to focus for an hour straight inside a system that is literally teaching your brain not to. Now, distractions isn't new. Old texts, you would describe this as slothism, idleness, wandering mind, fickleness of the heart. Humans have always known the pain of sitting in front of something important and wanting to be anywhere else. What's changed is not that distraction exists, but how dense and constant it is and how calculated that distraction is. A brain built for parchment and silence is now expected to focus inside a 24/7 information store. From the inside, brain fog feels like I'm just tired, but underneath, your brain is constantly weighing the cost of focus against the reward. Deep work, studying, planning, problem solving, these are forms of cognitive effort. And effort is expensive. When you're stressed, sleep deprived, burnt out, or constantly interrupted, the cost side of that equation gets heavier. So your brain starts to avoid effortful focus, the way a tired body avoids climbing stairs. You experience it as I'm lazy, I'm procrastinating, my brain doesn't work today. But often, it's your physiology discounting effort to protect you. Over months and years, this quietly rewires your habits. You start your morning with quick hits, messages, feeds, more tasks. You open your laptop meaning to do deep work, but your fingers automatically drift to the easy things to do. You do a bit of everything, finish almost nothing, and go to bed feeling busy but strangely empty. You build an entire identity around it. I'm last minute, I only work under pressure, I'm just disorganized. But much of that behavior isn't personality. It's a focus system that has been trained to choose shallow work because deep work has felt too expensive for too long. Now, I talked to you guys about zoochosis before. In captivity, bored or stressed animals develop repetitive, seemingly pointless behaviors, pacing the same route, rocking, chewing the bars, circling again and again. The environment no longer gives them natural challenges and meaningful goals, so their brain falls into loops. Now let's look at the human version. You pace your inbox, you open and close the same 3 apps, you wander from room to room, forgetting why you went there. From the outside, it looks normal. From the inside, it feels like your mind is pacing in the same small cage. That's zoochosis of the prefrontal cortex. In other words, that's toxic physiology. Now, something I want you guys to always think about okay? Everything that we discuss, I want you guys to start thinking about who is benefiting from this. Who is benefiting from me being dysregulated? Who is pushing for us to be more dysregulated, okay? Now, let's think of every tool and platform as a player in a game called Capture the Human Focus, okay? If a tool lets you do what you planned and then leave, it risks losing you to another tool. So the winning strategy becomes don't let people feel finished. Instead, drip feed tasks, layer reminders, reward check-in. Always show just one more thing, you know? Just one more thing you could fix, move, or optimize for your dopamine system. That means lots of tiny, easy wins always available. Deep, effortful rewards always delayed. The rational move from the system side is to keep your mesocortical pathway busy with low-effort work. The cost is your fog. That's the cost. When your focus system stays dysregulated for years, it doesn't change how you work. It changes who you believe you are. You know, you stop seeing yourself as someone who can hold a thought, follow a plan, finish what you start. So then you dream smaller, you plan less, you aim lower. Not because you lack potential, but because your daily experience says every time I try to do something meaningful, my brain disappears. A foggy brain quietly builds a foggy life. Unclear goals, half-finished projects, permanent later. Clearing that fog is not just about getting more done. It's about reclaiming the experience of being a mind that can actually meet itself fully in the present moment. Okay? Now, if you've been listening and thinking that's literally my workday, there's something important you need to hear. You're not failing at focus because you're defective. No. You're living with a dopamine system that's been pulled out of its sweet spot by constant, low effort, high novelty, high noise input. Your mesocortical pathway is trying to adapt to an environment that never gives it a stable target. So your experience of yourself gets warped. You start to believe, I just can't concentrate. I'm not a deep work person. My brain doesn't do hard things. When in reality, your brain has rarely been given the conditions to rediscover what it can do. And this is not a character flaw. It's a pattern. And guess what? What do we always say here? If it's a pattern, it can be retrained. Patterns can be retrained. So how do we do that? Well, I've got the answer. Okay? We can't fix this in a single episode, but we can start nudging it back towards center, towards regulation. Think of it a little bit as training your brain to find that focused sweet spot again. Enough dopamine for energy and clarity, not so much that you feel scattered, not so little that everything feels impossible. Step one, you need to protect one block of real focus. Start small, but sacred. Pick one 25 to 50-minute block in your day. During that block, phones away, phones out the room, notifications off, one task only. Okay, now you're not doing this to be ultra productive yet. No, we're doing it to show your brain what undisturbed focus feels like again. Now, at first, it's gonna feel horrible. Your brain is gonna be itching for an escape, and that's okay. Stay in the block. Even if your output is bad, no, we're training. We are training. We're training the circuit. We're not chasing perfection. No, we're training. Okay, so second thing we need to do, we need to make our task smaller, okay? You see that big task, that mountain? We need to break it up into tiny little pebbles, okay? Let's say, for example, you need to complete the report. Instead of saying, need to complete the report as one task, we break it down. We break it down. We write task 1, open document, tick. Task 2, read first paragraph, tick. Task 3, write 3 bullet points on this topic, tick. This is what we need to do. Why? Because your mesocortical system hates vague, massive tasks. If you write dissertation as a task, you will not do your dissertation. It's not going to happen. If you write fix my life, it's not going to happen. No. Your life is not going to be fixed. What you need to do? Break it down until it almost feels silly. That's what you need to do. So, open the document, write 1 paragraph, revise 10 flashcards, read for 5 minutes, When the task feels smaller, your brain's estimate of effort versus reward shifts. It thinks, okay, we can do that. That tiny shift is how you start to move through the fog. Step 3, reduce background noise. No more background noise. Nope. Your focus system is already fighting. Remember, we need a spotlight. We don't need a strobe light. We need it focused. Everything else needs to go. Close the extra tabs. So use full screen, turn off as many pings and pongs and pop-ups as you can. You need to lower the number of cues that are trying to pull dopamine toward something else. Less noise, less scatter, less fog. Now, step 4, stop multitasking. So pretending multitasking is productivity. No. For one day, I want you to be brutally honest. Every time you switch tasks, I want you to notice it just so that you can see the pattern. Watch yourself, chasing tiny hits of novelty instead of meaningful progress. Once you see it, you can start to choose a few switches that you don't make. So that's a quiet way of telling your brain, we're not going to reward switching as much anymore. We reward stay, okay? So stop looking for quick wins with multitasking. Stop that. Now, your brain actually wants to focus, okay? Your mesocortical pathway was not designed for permanent distraction. It was built to help you hold a goal. It was built to help you plan your steps and stay with hard things long enough to reach real rewards after. That's actually your natural fitra, okay? You always have to think about, what is my natural fitra? What am I actually meant to be doing? Well, actually, your mesocortical pathway was meant to help you focus. It's meant to be there so you can plan your steps, you can achieve your goal, you can stay with hard things long enough so that you can reach real rewards. When it's dysregulated, you feel like a passenger in your own head. But that dysregulation, it's not your identity. It's a pattern. And what did we say? Patterns can be retrained. Every time you protect even a small block of deep work, every time you resist one unnecessary switch, you're not just being disciplined, you're quietly teaching your focus system. This is what matters now. This is what we stay with. Over time, that's how you move from a life of constant brain fog back to a mind that can actually hear itself think. Anyway, that's all for today's episode. This is Toxic Physiology, where we explain the science behind the chaos. Please leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And I'll see you guys for the next